My neighbor Mike went for his test ride the other day to, see if he was going to buy a Tesla or not. And the salesman, the person who was helping him, the tech service tech, whatever his title was, I don't know what they called him. Anyway, he just smart summoned the vehicle. And so as Mike was standing there next to him, here comes the car with nobody in it. He was visibly impressed, he said, by that particular moment in time, as he was with his ride in the Tesla. And now he's probably going to lease one, going to lease maybe a Model 3. Anyway, we'll see how that all works out over the next few days. I've been talking about that there was a lot of catalysts in the month of September. I put together a list of those catalysts a couple of weeks ago and said, man, September, we're just going to one catalyst and then another catalyst and another catalyst. And those catalysts are going to get together and they should, have an impact on the stock. You'd think with all those catalysts, we'd see the stock moving. Well, we've already got quite a few, not necessarily the ones on my list, other catalysts that weren't even on the list have happened, and the stock is flattish. Truly, I did this with Larry last night. If you were watching, I can do it again right now just for fun. Over the week, we're up 5%. That's not bad, up 5%. If you could be up 5% every week. Over the month, we're only up 1.65 though. Over 3 months, we're up 6.4. Most of the time, I would take 6.4 with 3 months. That'd be 24% a year. Over 6 months, we're up 56.19. Let's just stop there. I think that's a good number. Anyway, but the truth is, for the month of September so far, which is about a week, we're up that 5%, which is okay. But compared to the catalyst, well, let's just go down the list here for just a second. We thought that the pay package, everybody thought the pay package, once we knew what the pay package was and that it was going to pass, everybody believes it's going to pass. Nobody is saying it won't pass. The pay package came and it went, and it's interesting. And it was, lots of news, created a tremendous amount of publicity. And it's quite, unique in that it's worth at least $1 trillion if you get to all trenches. Probably more like 2.5 trillion if you hits all the tranches. And yeah, okay, we might have got a point out of that or something. Well, then, of course, interest rates are headed down. We didn't know that. 2 weeks ago, we didn't know that the Fed was almost certainly going to cut rates next week. But now I think pretty much everybody agrees that unless the CPI is like 3.5 or 4% for the month, or the core CPI is, just way higher than anybody expected. I think we all know it's going to be a 25 basis point cut, or maybe if the CPI comes in as expected or a little lower, maybe even the same as last month or a little lower, maybe we get that 50 basis point cut because, of course, today we had that jobs write-down that dropped the 911,000 jobs disappear from the Biden administration, which was on top of the million that they'd already disappeared earlier. So from 2.7 million to 1.7 million to 800,000 or something like that. 900,000, something like that, like 75,000 a month is all that we had during that entire 12 months on average. Well, then we had so we know the interest rates are going down. That's a very good thing for Tesla on all levels. And, it's going to be the short-term interest rates, but we've already seen the mortgage rates coming down because the 10-year rates have come down. All right, then we've got Tesla being tested on highways in Austin. Well, that hardly got news. It's being tested on highways. Well, in Austin, okay? So what you got there is you've got the rider back in, kind of like you or me. So we know Tesla does very well on highways. And so eventually, I guess they'll take that rider out, put him onto the driver and put him into the rider position. So that's not a huge piece of news, but the fact that they're up on the highways, that's something. And similarly, what we've got today, and it's not a done deal, but Tesla is now asking 3 airports in California to allow them to test in the airports. And there's a lot of formalities that still have to be done there, but I'm guessing probably within 30 days, we might be testing in the airports. And again, you may say, well, Randy, that's not a catalyst unless, the catalyst would be, they can go to the airport now and pick up passenger or drop off passengers. Well, then we've had no accidents reported. And they say, oh, okay, yeah, but again, there's no headline, there's no, but the drip, drip, drip thing. I mean, yeah. Now, maybe that's part of the reason we're up 5% for the month is that we have week after week going by and there's no issues. Nobody's screaming and yelling, oh my gosh, look what happened to those those robotaxis in Austin or in San Francisco. Then we've got that we're closing in on the release of version 14 of FSD. Now, again, you'd say, well, you know, the time we're going to get the catalyst is when we actually get version 14, and it's widely released, and people are talking about it on YouTube. But you know, what happened to FOMO? And it's a reason why FOMO is kind of not there right now anywhere in the system because we're sitting on these all-time highs on the S&P, on the NASDAQ, on the Dow, I think is not quite there. But we've got all these all-time highs taking place. Is that kind of reduced the potential for FOMO? You need more of a hard, clear-cut case because, you know, we might be at this point 20 days away from version 14 or less. Well, how about you want something real? Okay, how about the success of the Model Y L in China? I mean, some reports have it at 120,000 orders. Now, anybody that's thinking has got to go, okay, some of that 120,000 would have been a Model Y, but some of it wouldn't be because what is this? This is like a Brian White situation where Brian says, hey, I can't even buy one unless I can stick my 3 boys in there. So I need and they're big boys. So I need a 6 or 7 seater. And I'm not going to buy that Model Y unless I can get that situation. Well, so there's going to be a bunch of that 120,000 that's not taking away from existing Model Ys. Then we've got the IRS extending the time for the $7,500. Now, that was reported, you know, in August, not in September. So it's not part of this first 9 days. But the reality is, it takes time for people to get the news and to figure it out and to think how that's impacting things. And what the impact there is probably on the order of another 50,000 cars in December. So you'd think that we would get some kind of lift from that. And maybe that was, you know, part of the lift that we're seeing. Then we've got the huge sales in Turkey, Spain, and Australia. I don't think anybody's paying any attention to that at all. That would show Berlin. Now, Berlin doesn't get Australia, of course, but Turkey and Spain and even UK, those are some good numbers coming out of there. China vehicles going to Canada. That was a headline yesterday. So, of course, the United States cars, this has been on again, off again. We've had sometimes we're shipping from the United States into Canada, sometimes China into Canada. Right now, because of the tariff situation, they're coming out of China into Canada. And that's a good thing because right now, Canadian sales have been very much lower. And if we can get a lower priced car into Canada by having them come from China, then that's going to help, you know, overall sales. So again, maybe it's not worth a hoot and a holler, but maybe it is. It's one more thing. Then we've got Q3 and Q4 numbers edging up, so people are starting to get it. Troy Teslike and others are upping their numbers. Some people are talking about 500,000. The betting websites are at 501,000 last time I checked. Brian Wong is at over 500,000 for both months, both quarters rather, quarter 3 and quarter 4. So usually, again, as you start to see people's numbers now, none of the the regular pundit class, none of them have raised their price targets. And none of them, I don't think, have raised their earnings estimates, but we've seen an awful lot of people talking about more cars getting out the door. Now, you and I know that the energy numbers are going to be much higher, and we talked about that yesterday at length, and the combination of the two could give us a huge beat on earnings, which is only a little over a month away. And if we get earnings around 90 cents, I think the stock's going to go crazy. So we'll see what happens on that instead of 47, which is being predicted. And then we've got this huge announcement last night about Mega Block. I mean, there's a massive, and I'll talk about this more in a minute. We talked about it this morning, but I want to talk about it more right now because I've learned a lot more during the day. That was huge. It's a huge announcement. Got nothing today. Zero, nothing. Okay, and then we'll get to that. So, all right. So TAM for the mega block. Okay, the TAM, this is not a lot different than the TAM for the mega pack, but the TAM for the mega block, you know what I'm talking about. This is the one where you take, I guess, 4 mega packs, you put them together, you put a transformer, you put, you got the central control. I don't know. I'm not going to give you the science. That was supposed to be Brian Wong tomorrow night. I hope it'll still be Brian Wong tomorrow night. And then we had Brad. I'm sorry. We had Nicholas Gibbs couldn't show up tonight, so I'm hoping for Nicholas Gibbs late tomorrow night and Brian Wong early tomorrow night, or vice versa, or something like that. Anyway, we'll have both of them, I think, tomorrow night. I really want to ask Brian a lot about these mega, because this is big. Now, again, I know it's energy, it's boring, but we're talking about a lot of money here. Okay, so number one, let's talk about what was in this news. Number one, a new cell, a new battery cell. This is that denser packing, a better cell overall, does more. That's important. That's big all by itself. They could have announced, we have got a new cell that has this much energy. It should be important to people. Number two, Tesla is now manufacturing transformers. Now, that was hidden in the details. In fact, it wasn't even in the thing last night. It was kind of implied. And then somebody asked Elon today, are you guys making he says, yeah, we're going to make the transformers. So we know there's a big shortage of transformers out there. So this is a big deal. So that alone, those two things by themselves, those are big, big, big announcements. I mean, maybe you don't understand the fact they're going to make their own transformers. And guess what? They're probably not just, just another transformer. I'm going to bet that they're a better transformer, and there's the benefits to them, and that maybe they're going to resell these, but maybe they'll need them all for their own uses. All right, then we got the auto bidder last night, talked about the auto bidder and the benefits of the auto bidder. I mean, this new auto bidder that's going into the system is going to make money hand over fist. Then you get, by the way, and the whole thing about the TAM, I'm sorry, I left that out in the beginning. The TAM has always been, Elon has talked about this, that the existing electric grid is only 50% utilized. We lose 50% because of the swings in the usage. So you're making energy that can't be used and it just goes away. And other times you need more energy and you have to turn on peaker plants in order to get that energy, or you have to dial up your energy and you have to dial it down. You're always doing all that. Well, you put batteries in the middle of it, and especially this new one. This new one is going to, I think, really been specially designed to do this job. And so this is going to be a massive, massive business because, you don't have to build, you don't have to get to double the current amounts of electricity, which everybody's saying we need to get to. You don't need to build more power resources to do that. You can do it by making better use of the resources we already have. All right, then you got a cooling system in there. This is a brand new cooling system using the same technology they're using in the Model Y. So this octa valve thing that routes the water exactly where it's needed to go at any given time. And we know this is technology that for some reason nobody's copying, but now they're using it in these mega packs, the version 3. They're going to be using it in these version 3s, and it's going to save money. It's going to make it cheaper to do. It's going to save water. It's just going to do a lot of stuff. Then you've got the low cost to install, because it's a fast install plug and play. They can install 1 gig in 20 days. So I don't know how it worked before. I don't know how many days, but I think we're talking months, many months to install a gig. You bring them out to the site, you put them down, and now you got to wire them together. You got to make sure they're working. Now you bring them out, you put them on the site, you make sure that they're the right height. You have 3 cables to hook everything together. And apparently, 20 days to do a full gig. There's nothing like it. Also, the actual installation cost, because of these labor-saving things that they've done to make it a plug and play, is way faster. Huge news is that these are 8-hour duration, not 2-hour. I've been following this now ever since the Elon Musk mission in great detail, along with Bradford and along with Brian Wong. And we've been following this whole thing. And what you've got with the 2 hours is it's got great applications, a huge TAM. But then you've got a couple of new companies, or at least one new company in the United States that's got this 4-hour version. Well, Tesla says, heck with that, we'll go to an 8-hour version. So now all of a sudden, when you've got the energy secretary yesterday on the All In podcast saying, oh, well, when the sun doesn't shine and when the when the wind doesn't blow, so you've only got these batteries and they can give you 2 hours. No, now these batteries can give you 8 hours of capability. It just changes everything. It reduces by 75%. Yeah, by 75%. In other words, you go from, if you needed 4 of these units in order to do the job before, now you can do it with 1 unit because it's going to do 8 hours instead of 2 hours. You've got increasing numbers probably out of Shanghai. This has been talked about today. This is a rumor. This is not a fact, but there was a new video out today about the factory in Shanghai showing it being built, showing kind of some drawings, but also some real video of the inside of the factory. And there's something about that or other news. We really need to follow up on this. Let me know in the comments below. They're thinking that maybe Shanghai is planning to double its production. We've got 50 gigs going on in Houston. Everybody was figuring 40 gigs in Houston, but we were also figuring it would be there sooner. I think pretty much everybody thought it'd be there at the end of this year, beginning of next year. Now we're talking about second half of next year, but 50 gigs. So that's 25% more than the 40 that was expected. Also, we don't know when the version 3 is going to go into the other 2 factories, whether the mega blocks will also be sold out of those other 2 factories. I'm guessing yes, but maybe it's a matter of getting enough of these new cells, because I think you need the new cells in order to have the kind of density that they're talking about. So they're saying that they have their own 7 gigs out of Reno that they're going to be making themselves for these batteries, but that they're going to be sourcing the batteries from all over the planet. So maybe eventually the other 2 can switch over. Not sure about how that's going to work. And then, so you'd think all of that stuff that I just went through, you'd think that maybe this is not going to be up a little more, just a little more. Maybe we'd break through the 348 and be heading towards the 360, kind of knocking on the door of 360. And then if we got some more robotaxi news in the next couple of weeks, then maybe we would break through 360 and go up to 400. So it's a little baffling, but it may be that there's an overall feeling like the market is stretched, and that overall feeling might be kind of causing even the folks in the Tesla community to keep from getting just ready to throw more money at the market in general. All right. Now then, this morning, I also talked a lot about the jobs, but there's more to talk about. All right. We know that there was 911,000 jobs less between April of last year and March of this year than had been previously reported. I just talked about the difference of 2.7 to 1.7 to 900. So it'd be 800,000 jobs. That's about 7,000, a little over 7,000 a month. All right. Here's what nobody, zero, no, not a single person is reporting. If last year we were only putting in 70,000 jobs a month during the year, and maybe that number is still too high, it might still come down. If we're doing 70,000 jobs a month through March, and in fact, it looks like they might have been lower January, February, and March already, which would still be Biden's watch. If we already were coming down before we started laying off federal workers and before we stopped hiring federal workers, if we were already down to those numbers before the immigrant labor started going home or being forced to go home, if we were already those numbers before we closed up the border so that immigrant labor can't get into the country, we stopped maybe a million people a year, 2 million people a year from coming in. If we did all of that last year, when AI was much more fledgling and was not impacting jobs as much as it is now, then if we're only going from $70,000 jobs a month to 22,000 this month, that would seem like no duh, of course, obviously. Oh, but wait a minute. Maybe the 22,000 jobs number is wrong. Nobody's saying that. I saw two people out of all the articles, out of the millions of people that posted on X about it. I mean, literally everybody's posting about it on X. I saw two people, maybe besides me, say, "Who's who in their right minds think the 22,000 number holds? Who in their right mind thinks last month's number holds?" No, next month they'll change both of them. And who knows, maybe this month it was 55,000 or 75,000 or 100,000 based on how bad the numbers are. Who knows? It might be way, way higher. So why is anybody trusting the number now? Why is anybody making a decision based on the number that we had from August? It makes no sense why anybody trusts that number. Now, I'm getting closer to trusting the 800,000 or whatever it was from last year, the 800,000 for that 12-month period. I'm getting closer to trusting that number. They've had a long time to work on it. And they finally go, well, okay, it looks like maybe it was 800,000. But trusting the number for this month? No, I don't think so. So anyway, that's kind of going into next week. We got the CPI coming out this week. Okay, let's talk about that. So right now the Fed is either going to cut 25 or 50, right? We all agree on that. They're not going to do more. They're not going to do zero. That's as of today. Now there's 5 days between now and next Wednesday. 5 business days between now and next Wednesday, 5 market days between now and next Wednesday. So there's a lot that go wrong between now and next Wednesday. Okay. CPI, PPI. So tomorrow we get the PPI. You've heard me say it on this program forever. I've done huge studies on this and nobody else has. Go ahead, find me a study. Go ahead, look it up. Have Grok look it up about a comparison between PPI and CPI. I want to explain it just again. Just bear me out because some of you are new. You haven't heard me say this. So those of you who have been on forever and listening to me forever, I'm very sorry to say it again. But listen to this, okay? PPI is what the costs are to the manufacturer, okay? That's what it's measuring. Or it could be the cost to the distributor, or so the manufacturer ships it to the distributor. So that's the distributor has a cost. So his costs are either going up or down. Then you got the retailer whose costs are going up or down. Those are the kind of the 3. Yes, there's service people that also have costs in terms of their PPI as well being impacted by it. All right. But the PPI that comes in at this level right here, that comes in at the manufacturing level. Now, I've been a manufacturer, I've been a wholesaler, and I've been a retailer, okay? I've been all 3, a lot. I've been selling products through Amazon now for 12 years, maybe more, 14 years, something like that. And I also had a retail store, and I've also written books about retailing, okay? I've written all the books that have ever been written about bicycle retailing. That's true. I've written the very best book about bicycle retailing and the very worst book about bicycle retailing because I've written all the books about, anyway, so I know something about retailing. I know something about wholesaling. I've been a manufacturer for 30 years. I've been in the position of manufacturer for more than that. And I've also consulted with retailers, wholesalers, manufacturers, and service providers. And I've done this on multiple continents. All right, so I know a little bit about the supply chain, a little. So I buy the product for $1 as a manufacturer. Now, let's say it goes to $1.10. It's now going to, for any reason, it's just the raw material cost. My supplier just said, hey, I'm going to raise your price 10 cents, and I couldn't do anything about it. Or it's a tariff, or it's a transportation costs went up, whatever. It doesn't matter why it goes from $1 to $1.10, but it went from $1 to $1.10. So I'm now going to have to make a decision what I can do with that $1.10 in terms of I manufacture the product and now sell it to the wholesaler. That $1.10 might go through as 10 cents. But when I sell it to the wholesaler, let's say for $2, if I sell it to him for $2.10, then the whole 10% didn't go through, only 5% went through. Are you with me so far? Now I might raise it 20 cents. If I normally work with a 50% margin, I may say, okay, if I go into $1.10, now I got to charge them $2.20. You see, so it could be one or the other. Or I might go, I can't afford to raise this price at all right now. I'm going to have to eat the 10 cents. Or I might have tons of inventory and I might decide not to buy anything, or I might buy it, but I don't have to use it for now. And so it's first in, first out. And so all of my existing inventory is still going to be going through at this old cost. And so I decided, no, I'm going to hold off on raising my prices, even though I've had this increase. So it could be months before it gets through. Are you beginning to see what I'm saying? Is that what the producer is paying for something doesn't, you have no way to know how that's going to impact downstream. It can impact the same amount, it can impact more, it can impact less. Now, is there some correlation? Generally speaking, if your PPIs are going up on a regular basis, then your CPIs are going to go up on a regular basis. But it is not a one-to-one by any stretch of the imagination. And now, okay, and finally, and just for fun, let's look at housing. The housing on the CPI has nothing to do with the cost of lumber. It does, but it really doesn't. What it has to do with, because the question they ask is, how much can you rent your house for? How much are you paying for rent? And that has to do with way more than the cost of the lumber. It has to do with the cost of the land. It has to do with the permitting. It has to do with the market, how the markets are at any given time. It has to do with interest rate. All of those things, all of those inputs, tremendous numbers. Same thing with service providers. The service provider, his inputs might go up or not go up at all, but he's got all these things happening in terms of taxes, or of regulations, or of his labor, or whatever, and all of a sudden he's got to raise his price. So the CPI goes up, but the PPI, no change. Okay, I'm sorry. That's a very long explanation, but most people have zero idea, just like they have zero idea about tariffs. After all of my yapping about it, you know how tariffs work now, and you know that they don't all go through all the way to retail, but most people don't. And even after all of this time where tariffs have been on the front pages, 99.9% of the population still wouldn't have a clue if you asked them. All right. So what are we expecting? I'm expecting a beat on PPI and CPI. I think that we will be pleasantly surprised. I think, because I'm just looking at Trueflation, and I've always liked Trueflation, but I thought they had some problems. But lately, I think they've cleaned up a lot of their problems. I've been watching it now for, I think, about 3 months, reporting on it every day. And I think Trueflation is probably right now. And Trueflation has been at 2% for months. Okay, 2.3, 2.2, 1.9, 1.96. Trueflation is down there low. Okay, so I don't see how we're going to be still sitting here with a 2.9 year over year or a 3.0 year over year. I just don't see how it's going to happen. So we'll see tomorrow, but on the PPI, and then on the thing that the market cares the most about, the CPI on Thursday, I think these are going to be less than expected. Maybe it won't be 2%, but they're going to be less than expected. That will finally make it, we will have everybody will be certain. If the CPI comes in at or below, then we can be certain about the Fed cut. All right, so what happened today? So we got Tesla coming in with a 0.16% increase today, and I got to do that over again, and a 0.08 increase in the aftermarket as of now. So we're sitting at 347.25, banging right up against that 348 again. 348. We've been in this position before. We've actually gotten through the 348. We'll see if we get through the 348. I would say if the PPI comes in soft tomorrow, there's a chance we would get through the 348. If the CPI comes in soft on Thursday, we go through 348 for sure. Okay, let's go ahead with the rest of the market. The rest of the market. We'll wait for that. Let's go ahead to the bonds, which went up today. So apparently the bond market is a little nervous that maybe the CPI will come in strong and become too high, and that would mean that maybe the Fed doesn't cut, and therefore they pulled back a little bit. They pulled back about 3 basis points. So we're at 4.086. We were at 4.05. So about 3.5 basis points. We're showing in the aftermarket or the pre-market right now up just another 1.2 basis points. So anyway, but we're sitting at 4.086. You'll see what happens over the next 2 days. It'll be very, very clear what the markets are thinking. But I believe we'll be in the threes by the end of the week. We have oil up a little more, but $62.99. It's a fine price in terms of the CPI, PPI. Oil's included in the CPI, it's included in the PPI, but not in the core. But these prices the oil prices will be, the energy prices is one reason why the CPI is going to come in low. Housing prices going down is one of the reasons why I think the CPI is going to be low. Food prices absolutely coming down, when I say coming down, not going up as fast. Clearly, a big portion of these numbers, I don't see how they're going to be up over 3%. I just don't see how it's going to happen. Natural gas down 0.48, sitting at 3.10. It has been around $3 now for 2 months. Another energy component. Now gold has gone crazy, but you know how much gold makes up of the CPI? Not much. Okay, gold is down 7.30, sitting at 36.75. Silver up 0.12, marching back up a little bit, $41.39, and copper is unchanged at $4.52, about where it's been. Then you got the dollar falling just a little bit, not very much here in the pre-market. Bitcoin 688 down for the day at 111, 450, really close to exactly where it's been. Ether sitting up $10 at 4,309. And there now we got the equities for tomorrow. Okay, so the Dow down 0.17, S&P up 0.14, and the NASDAQ only up 0.06. So that's a rather odd set of usually that's not the beta you're expecting between those. All right, so that is kind of where we are tonight. So tomorrow night, as I mentioned, hoping to have Nick and Brian Wong. Tonight, you got Brian White at 7:45. Very, very good show. I highly recommend it, but still, we need more people to go back and watch last night's Brian White. So you could do 2 Brian Whites in one night. I mean, how funny could that be? I mean, we know he's hilarious, right? So I'm putting the card up for Brian White, so you can go back and check that out. And then look forward for more Brian White later tonight. Anything I'm leaving out? Anything I'm forgetting? Join Patreon. One of you, just one person, just one. Be lovely. Been great talking to you.